Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, all sponsors, leaderships, elders. As Hans has mentioned, it's been a challenge on water quality. I come from the Saddle Lake Indian Reservation. My passion in water goes back to the mid-'80s. And our water treatment plant, I've labeled it and thumbed it the center of disease creation for various reasons. Presenters here in the past few days have justified that, have solidified it. And I apologize that it's taken so long. For the Native people as a whole to wake up, because we always talk about our future, our children. Without our children, we ain't going to exist anymore. So with that, we'll go on. And one more comment. I'd like to thank Hans Peterson. When I first met the individual, I was reluctant because scientists in Canada, I found, have been bought off, and they pit scientists against scientists. I shall go on. In spring, in March of this year, Saddle Lake was invited to attend a meeting with the World Health Organization. There was a representative there. Today I'll expand a little more on what was discussed. At the end of the conference, I met toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose with the individual. He told me when Canada comes to Geneva, everything is fine regarding water, housing, and obviously what you said today. I'd like for you personally, along with Saddle Lake, to send us a package so we can justify an argument when Canada comes to the table in Geneva. Like most cities around the world, we in Saddle Lake strive to achieve good quality drinking water, free from disease-causing organisms. We are also concerned we are not able to remove dissolved organic compounds from our water. Like most cities around the world, in our community, we have poor quality drinking water. And yet we are told on the left hand that we have pristine water sources. We have poor treatment equipment. This has been relayed to the federal government, our benevolent federal government, for many, many seasons. But we have to understand, in order to provide good quality drinking water, we need the tools. And First Nations, I've seen, from BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, do not have the tools. But lately, they've come with a new method that is installed at the back end of the units. It's called UV disinfection. They say this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'll share with you a little bit about UV disinfection. UV disinfection, these are the guys. These are people, in my eyes, just like the red man, the white man, the black man, and the yellow man. These are people in the water, and they're highly intelligent. Scientists still today have not been able to distinguish how they reproduce. But they're capable of reproducing within 20 minutes once they know a predator is out to onslaught them. Disinfection alone will not extinguish Cryptosporidium, nor Giardia, nor viruses. Cryptosporidium was first founded and identified in 1902. UV disinfection shatters these protozoa, bacteria, and viruses in the water. And when they come at you in clusters, some of them do not even get touched. And the most amazing part of all this, when talking with geneticists and scientists, these pathogens are capable are rejuvenating and rebuilding themselves after we thought they are inactive, meaning they're dead. And after we ingest this water, we in turn are affected, but yet we feel fine. We say we're healthy, but then our immune systems kick in, and our immune systems are there to provide for us for life for a span of 30 to 40 years. So at the end of our immune system, they tap us on the shoulder. Time's up, my friend. You got to rely on pharmaceutical drugs. You got to go see your physician for an operation. Or you got to go to the kidney dialysis machine. Or you got to go through chemotherapy. It's an unfortunate fact, but it's happening. Not only in Saddle Lake, but I'm sure it's happening in many First Nations communities. Here's another one. Coliforms, as we all heard. I don't want to touch more about that, but it's a nuisance test. $600 million was allotted to First Nations people in Canada to improve infrastructure. But as we found out now by the presenter earlier in the past few days, chlorine quickly puts it to a rest, and it will immobilize it in time. And those of us that have cisterns on our reservations, those cisterns become contaminated again because there's no way of cleaning them. Also, the viruses and the parasites are more difficult to kill. So when they do their testing, it's a hit and miss. They never test for parasites. They never test for viruses, only for coliforms. And they monitor total and free chlorine residuals. Saddle Lake, the water treatment plant, we detected protozoa, parasites. And how we did this was rather amusing. I don't mean to laugh. But Health Canada, the University of Alberta, in conjunction, was involved, and they detected beaver fever, which is giardiasis. They detected cryptosporidium in our drinking water. They came back to us and told us these forms are so low that they're acceptable. But in checking with geneticists, once again, scientists and physicians, all it takes is one oocyst or one cyst, cryptosporidium or giardia, and your system will be compromised. It's a sad fact, but it's true. For example, this guy here, Campylobacter, is present in many treatment water systems across the Prairie provinces. Health Canada has known this, and it is responsible for paralysis. It triggers heart attacks. It's capable of stopping the heart muscle, and yet we're told everything's fine. Campylobacter is present in many distribution systems. More so in Indian country. As I mentioned, we don't have the proper tools to effectively treat drinking water. Viruses, I mentioned this already. We have to remember, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, these viruses, or the opportunistic pathogen, or the primary pathogen, they travel in bunches, as you see many of us do today, because we feel comfortable. We're in a comfort zone. When we're alone, we're more easily, as example for bacteria, to be invaded, to be controlled by chlorine. At Saddle Lake, we have one other strike against us in attempting to kill the microbes. That's Giardia and Cryptosporidium. We have a high level of DOC. I was not aware of this until I contacted Hans Peterson and the Safe Drinking Water Foundation in collaboration with Saskatchewan Research Council. The organic carbon has an effect on the chlorine residual in our distribution system. Our level of organic carbon is 16 milligrams per liter, which is 10 times higher than future guidelines to come. By the year 2008, it's going to be law right across Canada, and time's running out for the Native people. Presently, we're all being contacted to be hooked up to the regional water systems. While personally, back home, and talking and corroborating with leaderships, they do not want somebody regulating tap water for them, because water is going to be a precious source, and it's going to be worth more than oil in future guidance to come. In addition to this, we form chlorination byproducts, trihalomethanes, haloacetic acids, which are cancer-causing to people. But then again, if we did not take our own investigation, and this is where I had continuous talks with leaderships from Saddle Lake, the administration of Public Works, we were caught in a no-win situation. We looked around. Why? How? When? Where are all these diseases evolving from? I've talked to elders. I've talked to spiritual people, medicine men, offering flags and tobacco. Tony, I'm going to say something to you. When was the last time you witnessed, and I'm supposed you can take this home with you, we had a natural death on our reservation? I got to thinking. When I left the guy, I thanked him. So I went back to work in a computer. I find the best time to get on a computer is from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning, because it's not as busy. Health Canada hired people and maintained that we are doing fine. This has been going on, transpiring for 28 seasons. It's rather frustrating. We received a lot of help, as I mentioned, from the Safe Drinking Water Foundation, and had our water independently tested by the Saskatchewan Research Council. We found that through working with the Safe Drinking Water Foundation, we could not maintain chlorine residuals, which was evident for quite some time. We also found we had ammonia in our raw water. Also, our treated water. And this brought a lot of concern from the leadership and the elder and his Senate, because chlorine reacts with ammonia, causing chloramines, which is 100 times less powerful of controlling or killing or even speaking to the microbes. But then again, we only test for coliforms. I'm sorry to repeat this phrase, but this is what Health Canada continues to tell us. Everything is fine, Tony. Leave things alone. We have to remember that 1/3 of the waterborne outbreaks have positive coliforms. So in 2/3 of waterborne outbreaks, the water systems test negative for coliforms. Yet we only test for coliforms. That is bad odds when you're dealing with human health. Due diligence. Because I would not want to be around when the younger generation grows up and saying, what were you guys doing asleep at the wheel? When we tested our water in collaboration with Safe Drinking Water Foundation, Saskatchewan Research Council, it clearly showed we had a problem with ammonia and both lack of free and total residuals in our water. Even Health Canada states that if free chlorine residuals are below 0.1 milligrams per liter in the distribution system and a total chlorine residual is below 0.5 milligrams per liter, then a precautionary boil water advisory should be called. I found out that the word precautionary and boil water advisory are the same. This is serious, and I'll share something about boiling the water. When I went to Germany on the website, a scientist revealed a paper to me It wasn't free. Tony, here's a paper. We read it. They boiled the water to 100 degrees Celsius. They cooled it. They administered it to the gerbil. The gerbil became infected with the waterborne disease. They also froze it to a temperature of minus 70 degrees Celsius, cooled it, gave it to the gerbil became infected with the waterborne disease. I'd like to share that with you. So boiling water, as Health Canada states, 1 minute, 2 minute, a rolling boil. I'll leave it to you. Yous are intelligent. So we have to strive to produce safe drinking water for ourselves, our elders, and our future generations to come. At Sad Lake, we got a distribution system. I'd say maybe about 1/3 of our houses are hooked up to a distribution system. We've had continuous problems over there. We are unable to keep a free residual of 0.1, nor a total residual of 0.5. They're so low. When I went over there and inspected for chlorine, the guy who said, well, our water's safe to drink, because there was no pink color in the testing I was doing, and I explained to him what the indicators meant and the demand. And I also showed him what the chlorine residuals are coming from the plant. He was astounded. He was shocked. Excuse me. Health Canada, in their books, they call a precautionary boil water advisory should be called, but Health Canada would not hear of it. However, we sought legal advice, and this is our leadership. And this is the word due diligence. If you know something is wrong and you need to correct it within your own power. If you don't, you are exercising due diligence. It is not a good position to be in if you are challenged in a court of law. The Chief and Counsel was concerned that if a band member were to sue Sad Lake's leadership, that they had been affecting our poor quality water, then we would be held liable. And this is one we've continued to seek from INAC, this liability. We know already in Sad Lake we don't have the proper tools to treat water. We know that. Who is going to hold the liability? Is it going to be another Walkerton situation? Well, Sad Lake was prepared to hire an underwriter and push that liability, plant it back in the arms of the federal government. There are some attempts out by these two reputable firms, our benevolent federal government, Health Canada and INAC, to address the water issues. And I mentioned this already, the U of A. We'll not talk about it. Sometimes we need to take a closer look at people who work at universities. In our case, lead researchers that did the work in Sad Lake, he sits on the Health Canada board. And we found out about Health Canada. The one with the gold makes the rules. The problem with Health Canada's golden rules is that people suffer from unnecessary illnesses across the country. Maybe we'll get contradicting arguments regarding that, but I'll leave that to you to decide. The United Nations say water quality is a human right. We should have at least the right to find out what is wrong with our water. We tried to do that with our own, but failed until we started working with the Safe Drinking Water Foundation and Hans Peterson and the Saskatchewan Research Council. And I have to commend Hans. He's did a lot of work, not only for Sad Lake, but many, many First Nations people. When I first met him, he was interested in third world countries. And lo and behold, third world countries are where we live on the Indian reservations. Before Safe Drinking Water, we tried to get an EnviroTest. That's who tests our water in Sad Lake. But they refused to comment. They refused to give me information on our water. I went back, I told them, where is the triangulation approach regarding water testing? This water is ours. It is our health. It is our right to demand. I'm sorry, Tony, we can only respond to Health Canada. And I've known in the past, Health Canada is famous for telling the truth. I'll give them top marks. They do tell the truth, but partial truth. And they compromise data. They compromise reports coming back to First Nation peoples, chief and councils. And this causes a dissension in many, many communities. At Sad Lake, we feel we need to embark on an independent lab to test whether our water, our raw water, exactly what is in it. And this can easily be done. But I want to share with you, many of us believe and know we have satellite systems up there in the atmosphere. Science is capable of zooming in on a lake, whether it's Yellow Quill, whether it's some other lake around Yellow Quill, or Sad Lake. Other bands, you can also do that. You can take a picture from the aerial shot and it'll identify cryptosporidium in your drinking water. Yet they fail. They refuse that angle of approach. Another one I brought up to Health Canada. Health Canada has a level 3 laboratory in Winnipeg that will identify cryptosporidium and giardia and viruses in the drinking water. It's called PCR, DNA, RNA technology amplification. It's quick, it's concise, and it's reliable. But yet, they do their indicator testing on First Nations drinking water. I'll just share that with you. While engineering companies install water treatment equipment, they rarely know if the equipment they are installing will adequately treat the drinking water that source is coming from. Because every water is unique in its own source, in its own region, and its own environment. There are many, many impurities in the drinking water, dissolved organics, inorganics, and this is evident. At one time, as you heard here, our water was pristine. I'll share with you an elder. An elder told me he used to stand in the creek and watch his toes, count the little fish. Look at me today. I'm sorry we did not listen to you, for I have no legs. I have no limbs. And talking with Murray McQuigley in Walkerton, they've now come to the rationalization and believing through research that this E. coli that they identified has caused kidney problems, caused liver problems, and is causing type 2 diabetes. Excuse me. The engineering firms, the ones that install our water treatment plants, as soon as they are installed, they're signed off, and we are left to make sure that they work for us. This question has to be dealt with in a more serious matter. This I'd like to share with you, because presently we're having a call from MINAC to design a water treatment plant. We've told them it's practically impossible to design a water treatment plant with the present water we have in Sad Lake, for we are not magicians, we are not fortune tellers, nor do we have the capabilities of the higher power. We need to run a pilot testing. They came back and they said, we want to see a 4-season pilot study of your lake in Sad Lake. So this is where it's at right now. So nobody really knows how effective various water treatment processes are. We should all know, so we can compare notes, what works and what doesn't, what fails and what is successful. Right now, poor treatment equipment and processes are being installed as we speak. We are paying for this lack of knowledge. Apart from engineers, we are left to representatives for manufacturers that will flag their own water treatment technology upon us, no matter how inappropriate it is to test our drinking water. Groundwater systems have been sold to native communities that use surface water and vice versa. Treatment plants have been built here in Manitoba, producing 100 gallons per minute. They're probably expecting a large powwow or a big city, when 10 gallons a minute would have been adequate and appropriate. So the plant only runs for 3 hours every second day. I'd love to be that operator, show up for work at that time and get paid full salary. And it's idle for so long. This cannot be done. But I'm sure that the engineering company made a bundle of money. And again, our benevolent government, where was INAC? They are always on us with their basic level of service standards agreements. And that's what we get caught in. The only way they'll recognize if we need more inferior technology is we seek independent engineering firms. Then possibly they'll listen. We need to learn more about water treatment processes, what different ones can do and what others cannot do. We need to educate ourselves in advanced processes such as membrane filtration. We need to know what the difference is between ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis filtration, nanofiltration membranes. When using reverse osmosis membranes, we are able to remove Cryptosporidium and Giardia, that's the protozoan, bacteria and viruses, as well as organic and inorganic chemicals. To us at Saddle Lake, the solution is therefore simple. Instead of always battling the odds of trying to inactivate disease-causing bugs, we would like to remove them. We believe in nature. We don't believe in harming one another. And we also believe that concept. We respect the pathogens in the drinking water. We don't want to destroy them. We don't want to shatter them. We don't want to kill them. We just want to tell them, hold it. You're not permitted to come through the distribution system. Only then, we will be able to be safe. Also, the organics, we'd like to remove them also, because these organics are the fuels for the pathogens in the drinking water. We'd like to effectively chlorinate our water. This means we have to remove our ammonium, nitrogen before we chlorinate also. Really what we'd like to do is what is already on the drawing board in most major cities around the world, as you've heard here today, yesterday, and the previous day. Remove the bugs and remove the organic and inorganic problem chemicals. Then you can truly say the water is safe to drink. At Saddle Lake, we have sought collaboration from the federal government for the past 7 years to resolve the above water issues. All we got is hostility. According to the United Nations, safe drinking water is a human right. Free of coliforms doesn't mean the water is safe to drink. As long as Health Canada is going to use a small subset of the Canadian Drinking Water Guidelines to guesstimate whether the water is safe or not, Native people across Canada will continue to pay the price for unsafe drinking water. We need to pull together. Not tomorrow, but today. We got to start somewhere and find new ways of making water safe. And I believe Hans Peterson has brought that technology to Canada. I was rather mystified. I was shocked, and I was surprised when I visited Yellow Quill Indian Reservation. The call from our people and our water working group is we do not want to use chemicals to treat our water anymore. So there's one way of addressing the water situations. We have friends around the world. David Suzuki has come out to Saddle Lake to help us in our plight, and the Safe Drinking Water is working with us on a daily basis in the same way they are working with several other Native communities across Canada. David Suzuki helped Saddle Lake by attending a fundraiser for the First Nations Laboratory. I commend him for it, and I'd like to thank him for his talk. But personally, I was disappointed because it said the challenge to scientists. And when the federal government makes decisions on infrastructure for First Nations communities, scientists are not on board. They do not make the decisions to tell us what is right, what is wrong, what is best. Saddle Lake is now in phase 1 of a fast-track new water treatment plant. We'd like to thank Xenon. They're providing us with a packaged water treatment plant. Presently, it's being installed on our reservation, and hopefully, by October, we'll better breathe or relieve from many, many concerns that surround water. Presently, we have a small RO unit that was supplied by Xenon. It's a reverse osmosis. That's being utilized daily, and I can't say enough about that unit. I'd like to thank you, and I'm sorry I took up so much of your time, but I want to share with you what an elder and a geneticist told me. Tony, the Indian people are compromised right across Canada. You probably are aware of it, but many of us are not. Next time you're walking around in the wilderness, in the forest, look in the areas where it's clean, how the trees grow so straight. And go to areas where there's agriculture, petroleum industries, and you'll see the trees, how the leaves look, how the branches grow. That is how the Indian people look. They're compromised with diseases. With that, I'd like to thank you, and God bless you all.